This is the way that we bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. Igniting the fire within you. Exalting the melody of freedom. These are the things that will bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. So gather the faithful. Tell everyone to stand and shout loud. Shout loud. Shout loud. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, down. Down, down, down.
Let me tell you, it's in the air. Joy is in the air. Love is in the air. Can you feel it? What it feel like? Freedom. What it feel like? Don't sleep on it, brother. You might get left, sister. Can you feel it? What it feel like? Freedom. What it feel like? Justice. No need to be counted, cause I am down. Down, down, down. Down, down, down. Down for the end of racism, for the end of bigotry, cause I am down. For the end of misogyny, that's right. For all the isms out there, just down, down, down. Let's bring it down.
So guys, sorry for the interruption. I'm not sure exactly what happened. Anyway, please hit the share button. Connect people who were in the previous thread to this thread. Let them know that we're back on air. I'll go back and I'll try to stitch everything together or put the part 2 with the part 1 so people get it. And Diane, hopefully you'll call back. The question that Diane asked, the critical question that she asked was, how do we get people to focus on their interests instead of just continuing to vote for a failed system? And I was using the analogy from, or a lesson from The Lion King. And the apparition that, Simba received while he was in the wilderness was of his father, Mufasa, and he said, remember who you are. And I think that that is the key, because since freed Africans were brought here in 1619 and deposited in Virginia and enslaved, this corporation of white supremacy has worked to get us to disconnect from who we are and to connect with something else. And so if you look at where we are now, we connect more with the Democratic Party, or even some blacks with the Republican Party, than we do with ourselves as foundational Black American and our experience. So we latch on to something that has nothing to do with who we are at our very core. So if you remember who you are, so this is the advice that I would give to anybody in trying to extricate yourself from this current psychosis. Remember who you are. You are a foundational Black American whose ancestors were brought here not to share in the wealth and power of this country, but be the commodity to the wealth and power of the corporation white supremacy. That's who you are. That's how they see you. That's who you are to them. That's not who you are, but that's who you are to them. And that's how they see you. So every system, everything that they put in place is designed to keep you in the position that they brought you here to be in. And so now when you simply latch on to this establishment party without any clear objectives for yourself, when you've abandoned all of who you are in order to take on the characteristics of somebody else, so in this case, take on the characteristics of the Democratic Party. So I'm not foundational black, I'm Democrat. Then what does that really represent? What are you representing now? See, and that's where it's all bubbling up, because if you look at history and you realize that there have been no fundamental or transformative changes, then what are you representing? Not representing change. Now they'll tell you that they represent change, but you haven't seen it in decades, 6, 7, 8 decades. You've not seen it. So what is it that you really represent is the question when you say, I'm a Democrat. And it's crazy because all the campaign literature that I used to do when I was doing that, folks would say, make sure you put Democrat up there. Democrat. Say, well, it's nonpartisan. No, put Democrat, because that's what black people want to see. They want to see Democrat. Put it in big, bold letters. So I could share with you all the literature I've done. And literally it says Democrat, even though there's no Republican running. They want you to say Democrat because that's what people identify with. Don't say black. Don't be too black on your literature because people don't identify with that. That is divisive. But to say Democrat, then black people unite around that. But what are you really uniting around? So I would say once again, to answer Diane's question, and maybe she'll call in, is in order to extricate people from this deep psychoses, you have to tell them, remember who you are, asterisk, to them. Remember who you are to them. You're not a partner. You're not a partner. You are to them the commodity to their wealth and to their power. So they convince you that you're part of this team, you're part of this, but you're not. To them, you're not. You never have been and you never will be. And we see it playing out now in its ugliest forms, where they're spending massive, insane amounts of money to shut you up, to marginalize you in this election, to tell you that you don't know what's good for you. Now, and we're going to get some more of this on a local level at about 11:15 when Jason from Union calls in and explains how in Union, New Jersey, the establishment is doing that very same thing to a group of people who rose up and decided that they were going to have the courage to challenge the status quo. Now, there's a video. I played the audio last week, but I'm going to play the video now. And the idea, guys, is we have to understand that this is a fight. This is a real fight. And we have no time to be afraid anymore. They have done everything they can do. Democratic Party and Republican Party have done everything they can do to try to strike fear in us, to paralyze us from seeking to be free. And I'm saying to you now, 2020 is the time to break loose from those chains of bondage and to free yourself. I'm going to play this clip because I thought that it was very appropriate. That's the word I'm looking for, appropriate. So let's see if I can find it. Here we go.
No matter what, time advances. We decide if society advances with it. We decide. Just because the clock ticks doesn't mean progress happens. We have to fight for it. We have to demand a radical new vision aligned with the century that we're actually living in. That at its core is what we are fighting for. And you know, it's funny because I hear out in the public and in the public square, and we talk about campaigns and debates, people always talk about how policies like Medicare for All or a Green New Deal or the decarceration of our unjust system or breaking up ICE and CBP, they call these things unrealistic. They call it unrealistic. You know what I think is so funny? I go back to DC, and when we discuss these issues behind closed doors, those folks who argue against those same policies behind closed doors, they never tell me it's unrealistic. They don't use that same argument in the Capitol. The argument that they use is, we will lose. We will lose if we do this. And aha, now I've gotten to the bottom of this issue. It's not that we can't, it's that we're scared. It's not that we can't, it's that we're scared. I spent so many years of my life scared. I spent so many years of my life scared. I spent years of my life scared that I wasn't going to be able to make rent at the end of the month, scared that I might get sick and not afford a doctor, scared that the lights might be turned off on my mom's house when I get home, scared right now to this day with my grandmother in Puerto Rico who is oxygen dependent, and this horrifying administration isn't participating in being part of the solution. I'm sick of being scared. I want to solve these problems once and for all. We should not be scared of what will happen if we try. We should be scared of what will happen if we don't.
Guys, welcome back. And we should be scared of what will happen if we don't try. And I want to say to you guys right now, I have Jason on the phone from Union. We're going to have a conversation about, some of these same things where we're talking about this corrupt establishment system and the need to tear it down. Jason, before I bring you on, there's a headline that literally just came out, which I want to segue at some point in our conversation. It says, national poll, U.S. majority wants to see Trump removed from office. Now, this is coming from MSNBC. Right? And the idea behind this headline is to suggest that the majority of the people should have a say. Right? That's what this headline is intended to mean. That the majority, that you all want him removed, but this is what I was saying in the first part of the show. You all want him removed, but the Republican Party, we need to demonize them because they don't want to listen to what the majority has to say. But I say to you again, the Democrats don't want to listen to what the majority has to say either. Right? So in this very headline, you see the absolute hypocrisy that they want to demonize the Republican Party for not listening to the majority of the people. But if you look at the polls and you look at all of the issues that are on the table, and you look at the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, those are the most popular issues. Those are the things that people want. So if MSNBC wants to be honest and fair, then they need to say that the majority of the people don't want Biden. The majority of the people don't want a centrist candidate. the majority of the people want radical change because 99% of the people are suffering and are underfoot, while the wealthiest 1% are continuing to benefit. Welcome to the show, Jason.
Hey, Eric. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, man. So listen, tell me how you're living in Union. What's happening over there?
Well, yeah, it's a pretty good segue into what was happening there a couple of days ago. Honestly, talking about failed leadership and not doing what the majority of people want, because we were dealing with that in Union locally too. So, I know you saw the headlines by now, and it made the rounds. It was on ABC News and NJ.com and all over the place. The lockdown situation that we had at Union High School on Friday. Where, I guess I'll sort of summarize in real time what was going on. There was reports early in the morning of the school being locked down when a student brought a hammer into the school, for self-defense or for fighting or something. The details on that aspect of it aren't really officially confirmed at this point, but the school was locked down. Then later on in the day, maybe like an hour later, there was a second lockdown, and not a lot of people knew why. And that's when the rumor mill started kicking up. There were people saying, students had brought knives in the school, guns, that there were fights breaking out all over, that there were, gangs, kids from out of town came into the school to cause fights. And this whole thing escalated from there. The school was locked down. Students were texting their parents all day, calling them from the classroom that they were scared. Like I said, police, formed a perimeter around the school. They had to call a SWAT team in at one point to check everything over. And so, like we were saying before, people were scared of what was going on that day. And the truth was that during all this, not a lot of the information was confirmed about what was going on. I'm sure you can imagine in this day and age with social media and news and catchy headlines how quick the rumors were flying about what was actually going on in the school. Alongside this all happening, I am one of the people who moderate a Facebook forum in Union. It's a resident-run, non-town government-based Facebook page that has about 16,000 members on it of, local Union residents. So a lot of these parents and students and people who were scared and wanted answers and questions were posting on this page, trying to get information, trying to get facts and see what was going on with everything. So throughout the whole day, a lot of them are high schoolers, and we didn't know if they were minors or not, so we're deleting all these things as they're coming up to try to get a handle on the situation. I made a statement that none of these facts none of these things that were coming out of the school were confirmed at that point. They were all rumors and speculation, and to please wait for an official word and not spread falsehoods and rumors around that could endanger the students more or interfere with police doing their job. So during this whole official response from the Township of Union government on what's going on the whole day, there's no official response from the Union Police Department on what's going on the whole day. So no information being posted up while, kids are literally running out of the high school scared about what's going on just based on rumors. Parents lining up outside the high school demanding to know where their kids are, and there's no leadership whatsoever from the town government to tell them what's going on. So that was all on Friday. The next day on Saturday, 2 days ago, the Township of Union government Facebook page put out an official statement from the mayor of the town blaming me and my other moderators and our resident Facebook group for causing the issue solely. They put all the blame on us, saying that we were the reason these rumors are spreading around. We were the reason the situation escalated, and that, all this is essentially our fault. A resident-run Facebook group being blamed by the supposed leaders and elected officials in our town for causing this problem in the first place. Meanwhile, mind you, to this point, they had still released no official statement on what actually happened that day. They did not send anything home to parents about consoling them, reaching out about any kind of counseling or resource or anything like that. In fact, even from the school district, it wasn't until 10 a.m. this morning, when most parents are probably at work, that they actually reached out and said there'd be a faculty district-wide parent meeting later today at 3 p.m. But if you're like most parents and you work 9 to 5 jobs or longer, you weren't home to get the call in the first place,
right,
and you're not going to be back in town to have that meeting at the end of the day. So yeah, it's just that, the response from the leadership was shameful. There really was no response even now. Just pointing fingers and trying to divide and place blame where there should be none, in an effort to try and divide us, and not listen to the people, to sort of get back to the point you were making before. Because on the statement the township page made, and anyone can go see this on the Township of Union Government Facebook page, you can go see the statement that they made Saturday late in the afternoon. There's about 30-something comments on this page, or on this post, and I would say 120 plus of them are all saying the township leadership was in the wrong here, against their post, against their statement, against everything that they're saying, and yet, like I was saying to your original point, of the kind of government and the elite politicians ignoring the will of the people.
Right.
You put up a statement like this, and 90% of the hundreds and hundreds of comments on it are saying that, no, the township is wrong here. The elected leaders are the ones who failed the students and the parents and the staff in town and allowed this fear and rumors and lies to propagate.
Right.
And they just ignore it. They point fingers and they try to divide instead of uniting in times of crisis like that.
So, Jason, let's back up for a second for those people who don't know you and don't know
Sure.
what you've been doing in Union County. There has been a shifting of political power taking place in Union County, right? So talk a little
Yes.
in your township in particular. So talk about that, because that is the underlying tension between in terms of what's happening, right? So them lashing out against you and against this page isn't arbitrary, right? It is attached to a feeling of anger, of frustration by folks who believe that they own the government there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So for people who don't know me, like Eric said before, I'm based in Crestview. I'm born and raised in Union. The last couple years in town, I've been involved by running for local office, for town committee against these very people who put out this statement over the weekend. So right there, that's a lot of the tension between myself as an individual and them is that we've run against each other in the past for political office. The campaigns have been, I would say, one-sidedly pretty full of smear campaigns and things on their part, sending out attack ads about me or my running mates, mostly throughout all these elections I've been part of, while our campaign doesn't take part in anything like that. So that's kind of where the underlying part of it started. Along with that, years before I for office, I was administering this Facebook group. It's got over 16,000 people on it. It's the largest resident-run Facebook page in the town by a long way. It has more than double the amount of people on the official township government Facebook page. And as you were saying before, talking about the political establishment versus more kind of progressive grassroots movements, they never like really when people have a chance to connect or to get defending opinions out or to question what the government's doing. And that's what this page is. They'll try to label the page as a page that allows bullying or harassment or hate speech, when really what they're claiming those things are people who are upset and fed up with their local government and the way the town is run, and they criticize that. Any kind of negative language or actual hate speech, we always delete and moderate on there. But what they don't like, as you said, is the fact that this is a public Facebook group where a lot of people in town can finally connect with one another, or a lot of the lies the township might be telling the people can be exposed much more easily, where facts and information about how they can get involved in the township and in politics and in civics is a lot more readily available. And no elected official wants that, especially these ones that are so entrenched and have been here for decades, controlling things and keeping the status quo. So just this past year, I ran with a slate of 50-plus Democrat county committee members in Union in a progressive slate to take on all the establishment county committee members. And I, along with 14 other people, won seats in this board where we represent our district locally in Union to the township as well as to the Union County overall and the Democratic Party. And so that wasn't just me. I mean, in Union, tons of people stepped up to do that and help. And it was a real great movement of parents and educators, blue collar, white collar, what have you, people from all walks of life who created the progressive agenda and were fed up with the way the town government and the county government and really even the national government are being run. So, we started something big here in Union. Other towns around the county got a couple of county committee seats in the Democratic committee also. So in total in the county, about 20 to 25, I think, new people were elected to be part of this county committee who are more for things like what we were just talking about, like transparency and better communication and accountability, and, demanding change from these people. So that's really where kind of the underlying tension has come between myself and this group that I run and the elected officials we have locally.
Sure. So they're working to dismiss, discredit, demonize, and then hopefully destroy you and those folks who are rising up in Township Union and who just want better lives, right?
Right.
Let me ask you a question. Has there been any attempt on their part to recognize in any way at all what the folks have done in terms of building this platform to be able to communicate, to talk about their town and the issues that are impacting all of you there, and have the folks who are part of that establishment there, who are entrenched in government there, said, hey, look, here's a platform that you got 16,000 plus people dialed into. Let us be a part of helping share information. Have they approached you about doing that?
No. It's actually been quite the opposite. So to your point, when this page was first made, the intent behind it was to connect people to each other, but also to businesses in town, local organizations and civic groups, but mainly to elected officials, to better have direct communication between the government and the people. So because of that, we don't exclude any people like that. There are plenty of township administrative employees, chairs of different boards in the town, elected officials who are on our town committee or on that page. So a lot of these people are on there, but they don't interact. They just kind of lurk in the background, and they'll monitor what is being said, and they'll react to it and sort of pass resolution and laws and things in response to discussions that are had on there. But there's no interaction, there's no communication or open discussion between elected officials and the people on there.
I find to be very interesting, and I hope that folks, in particular, in some of the towns, Jason, that tune into this show, namely Jersey City, Orange, East Orange, Irvington, Newark, I want them to understand what you guys have built there, and the transparency of the level of contempt that elected officials have. So what you've built online and the way that they're interacting with the residents online is no different than how they interact with them normally, right? So they're ignoring them online. They ignore them offline as well. They monitor people, and then they try to manage poverty. So they look and they say, well, what are they talking about? What are the things that are concerning them? So okay, so let's see how we can continue to control the narrative, how we can make slight adjustments so that we can quell the level of discontent amongst the natives, right? And then we go back to business as usual. I mean, that is exactly what it sounds like is happening on your page.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And even this last year, the Township of Union official page joined onto the forum. And so they'll post certain events and things sometimes, but it's always behind the kind of township banner. The individuals are never interacting with people. And the things they post are never hot button issues. They're never about issues that could be divisive or be tough conversations to have about. It's usually things like photo ops, PR things through the township, nothing of real substance. But again, they're all to be on there like any other resident in town. And I would more encourage the people who are elected to be active in their participating. But like you said, they just don't do that. Even, going back about a month ago, or back in December of 2019, the township passed a formal resolution unanimously condemning the page, telling us not to use the township seal, which is public use. There's a court case in Union County from, I think, 2014 or 15 that says the public seal, any township insignia are public use. The taxpayers own those things. So you have no right to request that. They also requested the page be open access, so any of them can kind of post and come and go as they please. But that's actually a Facebook rule that if you're a group over 5,000, you can't be run that way. It has to be a closed, approval-based system for new members to join. Just as like a privacy and security concern. So all of the things they were requesting were totally baseless. None of it was enforceable, yet they did it anyway. Just like with the statement they put out over the weekend, blaming this page for the issues at the schools. Like you said, it's an effort to discredit and intimidate me and the other moderators. I don't know if they want me to get into it too much, but I will briefly mention one of the moderators on my page is a teacher in town. And in this statement that the township put out, blaming this page, they specifically called out that one moderator as, teaching in the district, and how could they allow something like this to happen, especially when they hold a job like that, basically threatening this person and their job in town. So they can sit there and pretend that they're trying to do the right thing and unite and lead all they want. But when you're threatening teachers' jobs, when I'm getting calls and messages all day from students and parents and faculty asking me where the official statements are from the town, who are scared, who are telling me their kids are texting them, I'm not sure what's happening, but I love you, in case that's the last time they speak. The township's first response should not be to come and divide and point fingers and blame. If they actually cared, they would have responded like real leaders would, trying to unite, trying to update people, not trying to attack, using this page that has 16,000 residents in the town to communicate what's going on, and yet they don't. So you can't tell me you're looking at that objectively and saying it's not a personal bias or trying to target individuals when they shouldn't be as elected officials.
Diane, you just called in. Do you want to weigh in on this? Have you been listening to this conversation?
I'm here. I have a question for you, Jason.
Sure.
What is the because I know I heard about what was going on at Union High School, and there was a lot of conflicting stories. There were some videos that were released by the students inside of the school at the time of the incident. Yeah. Has there ever been since then a formal meeting with the parents and the students about what happened, about the future security concerns, about how they're going to handle this in the future?
No, and that's I just, before I jump on this call, So one of the parents mentioned to me that at 10 o'clock today, this morning, so 3 days after the actual event happening, a call went out saying that there was a parent meeting later on at 3 p.m. at the school. But a lot of the parents were upset about this because, one, if they're sending out at 10 a.m. and you're like most people and you have a 9-to-5 job, you're not even home to get this call. They're already gone at work. They're not even around locally. And by the same token, if you work that 9-to-5 job, if they're having a meeting at 3 p.m., you can't go to that either. So they are having a meeting, but it seems like a lot of the people are upset with the delay in when the meeting was happening, and also how it was actually communicated to people that this is going on. And as far as the safety concerns, going on about 2 years ago now, in the spring of, I guess, 2018 it would have been, after the latest in a series of the tragic school shootings, a lot of the seniors and other students at the high school in Union organized a walkout from the school. And, I don't even know the written number, hundreds and hundreds of students, if not thousands, left the high school, marched down to town hall, and better safety procedures in place at school. And of course, back then, all the politicians came out and said, "I hear you," and they posted their pictures, and they put out their articles in their media that they understood. But now here we are 2 years later, when a situation not nearly as bad as the shooting takes place, but the hysteria and the rumor mill around it is just as bad, where the kids and the students were feeling unsafe. We can see in practice that nothing actually got changed as far as protocol and safety procedure. Because I've been in contact with some of the students who were part of that march and have since graduated, who, you know, they're also in college. They weren't even around for this lockdown situation the other day. But they're just as mad, if not madder than most, because of what they did with the march out and the demonstration and going to the government meeting, where it feels like now 2 years later, when it's time for them to put up or shut up, they had no safety procedures in place whatsoever. And they're questioning what that march out even did, if anything, to actually make them change the way that worked.
Sure. Diane, Jason, we got another caller. Caller, go.
Hi, this is Sienna. I'm the person that Jason was talking about who ran the walkout 2 years ago. I'm in college, don't have class right now. And so I just wanted to talk about the anger that Jason is referring to. A lot of what happened in the lockdown on Friday that caused mass hysteria or grave concerns are things that we brought up 2 years ago that I was given lip service to by the administration, and also like this bunch of would just completely ignore the fact that these are things that were brought up. But it's just so frustrating because there's no particular way that you can control violence completely, but a lot of the things that were serious, like unlocked classroom doors, because of substitutes not being able to lock their doors, are things that we brought up in all of the conference panels and through protests and have just not been put in play. Like today, I'm sure the high school is super, super safe, as it always is. After something happens and is media popularized and everything is on lockdown for about a week, and then a week goes by and people forget that these are things that need to be upheld, maintained, strengthened. It's a continuous process. And giving people the comfortability to go back to their everyday lives and just be like, oh, my kids are fine there under this underlying assumption that the building is safe, it's just not true.
So, so you're a part of this group page that Jason is talking about with 16,000 residents on there?
Yes.
Okay.
It was one of the massive tools that I was able to utilize in order to start the walkout and the march and gain community support. We fundraised through that website to get students to the March for Our Lives in D.C. And the reason I returned to Facebook was to use that platform. And it is used for massive good, I think, and it's something that can be a tool to push union forward. And also, like, integrate all different ideas and walks of life if people choose to use it that way. It's not a combative place that still people are non-communicative.
So this so it seems like this page represents true democracy, right? Where people of all walks of life who are a part of that community can have open and honest conversations about what is actually going on. But it appears, based on what Jason has said and what I know from his fight with those entrenched politicians, that there is a war there in the township of Union to control the narrative, right? That's what it seems to come down to. That this page, that people are finally waking up and taking ownership over their lives and what they want and the kind of government that they want, and that those people who have been comfortable for many decades managing the situation there are fearful, quite frankly, of not being able to control a narrative.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case.
Okay. So where do we go? So where do we go from here, Jason? So what is the plan now? I saw your comment in the in NJ.com. You mentioned that you were going to look into having the page, making some alterations in the page to accommodate maybe getting approval before the posts actually go live and those kinds of things. What are your overall go forward plans with the page, and not only that, but with continuing to shift the power structure there in the Township of Union?
Sure. So the next day after the Friday lockdown, Saturday morning, this was been hours before the township put out that statement condemning me and that group. I put up a post in that page that has close to 200 comments now, I think, because I'm always asking for feedback from people on how to better run that page or get information out or anything like that. Because to me, like I've said multiple times, it is a community-run page. I'm the administrator of it, along with the other moderators to kind of, watch over things. But at the end of the day, the page is what the people of the town make it, and those 16,000 people make it. So I put up a post asking for feedback about how the situation was handled on Friday, what I and what we can do better at the page during times of crisis like that to address parent concerns in the town and resident concerns in general. So it seems like the overwhelming consensus is that during times of emergency, like with the lockdown situation on Friday, that we would temporarily make the page fully post-approved, meaning that no post that would be published by anyone would actually be published publicly unless one of the other moderators or I okayed it. And that's an effort to kind of stop multiple posts of the same type going up, so people can better kind of find information during times of, crisis or emergency. So we can do our best to try and limit the amount of posts that are just rumors and baseless, as to not cause more panic or fear or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems to be what a majority of people want. So, the other 99% of the time, the page will remain open to posting by anyone at any time. It just seems that during emergency situations like that, everyone on the page, for the large majority of them, agreed it'd probably be better to kind of limit the way things are posted just for information's sake and peace of mind and helping people actually get informed about what's going on.
Right.
If I time will still remain open and everything too.
Sure.
Jason, I have a quick question for you. Sure. I was a little concerned because I got a phone call. My office is in Union, not too far from the high school, maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I got a phone call from a friend who was working in Miami that particular day, but her kids were at the high school, and she was calling me to figure out what was going on. Now, I didn't get an alert from the township that there was a lockdown or anything that was going on at the school, but she heard about it in Miami through Facebook or Twitter or wherever she found out about it, and she was unable to contact any authorities about finding out what was going on. Was there a school alert that went out to the public to let them know what was going on? Do you know of?
So they're from the township committee and town government, no. They didn't send out any information to the town at large during the event, and they have not followed up since then with anything. Same thing with the emergency response pages in town. Nothing was mentioned about the issue. The school, as far as I know, sent out a robocall later that afternoon, several hours after the lockdown had started, and people were already kind of speculating and nervous and panicked about what was going on. They sent out one robocall. I think it was later in the afternoon, around like 3 p.m., which was still, I think, 4 hours at that point after the lockdown had already started. And the news and the rumors on social media were already starting to get out. So the school sent one home, but it was only to parents, I think. Like, only if you were on the school call list did you get that robocall.
So
someone actually asked the township. So someone asked the township government about that too, because we in Union have something called Code Red, which is an emergency alert system that goes to every email and contact or whatever part of this emergency alert system in the town. Someone asked the township why they didn't use that, and why the police didn't put out anything. And their policy, they said that their policy was not to put out code reds in situations like this, and basically kind of shifted blame to the police and to the schools.
Right.
So just like they kind of shifted blame to me and the page for things, they shifted blame to the police, they shifted blame to the school, even though they were probably best equipped to put out that emergency code red notice. So, no, for the most part, there was nothing that went out like that to businesses, to people who work in the town, to residents. There was no widespread information alert.
Right.
I mean, I would have thought even if they would have sent out alert just to tell you to avoid the area that there was a situation, they didn't send out anything. Now, my question also is, has the mayor come out and said anything about, because there seems to be a lack of communication between the police department and the school system and the public. Has the mayor, the current mayor, come out and said anything publicly about how to tie those things together and to fix this situation? No. The only thing the mayor has said is the statement that came out that was blaming the Facebook group that I administer for causing the incident to escalate, and there was no word about anything else.
So here's what I see, and I think that the folks in the Township of Union really should hold to task those elected officials for not valuing the platform that you've built that is truly engaging and informing those residents. Now, nothing's perfect, right? But the idea is to, after a situation, to go and do a postmortem if your interests are pure, right? So if the interest is to be able to engage the community when there are emergency issues of concern, to be able to disseminate accurate information, right? If that is the goal, then a postmortem should be done, and those people who are elected should be less self-serving and more and take more of an attitude of servants and say, how can we leverage this tool to be able to communicate? Now, I agree, Jason, that having some sort of a filter to prevent people in a panic from putting up stuff is going to be necessary. I think the other thing that probably might be helpful is to... There, great. But if within that family of 16,000, you can find some folks who say, hey, listen, you know what? We'll be a part of a network. It kind of reminds me, Diane, remember you used to have, before all this technology, you would have a chain, a call chain, of parents. So the school would call one parent, and that parent had a responsibility of a list of parents that they were going to call, right? So you create some sort of a chain, and at the nucleus, have some responsible people say, you know what, I will be responsible for helping disseminate this in the event of this kind of an emergency. And that way it triggers. This thing happens, some sort of from your page alert goes out to those people who have signed on to be a part of that chain. And if those folks who are part of the elected government there say, you know what, we want to be a part of that chain too, right? So now we can take the information that we get, and like Diane just said, there has to be communication between the police department, the school, all these other emergency entities that can quickly get information out so that then it can be disseminated through this page. But you know what that'll do, Jason? It will further strengthen the platform that you built, and that's the fear.
Right.
That's why they won't do it. And so, do you understand what I'm saying? So the thing that would help the residents, they won't do because they are at the core self-serving. And that's a shame.
Right.
And the residents there should recognize that, and you should boot them all out of office.
Well, not even that, Eric. The other thing is each town has an office of emergency management, which sometimes may be the police chief or the police captain, the fire captain or the fire chief. There should have been somebody in place that should have put out something publicly to let people know, and that's what those systems are put in place for, to be able to connect with people. The other thing is, not only was Union Township police officers involved, you had SWAT come out of the county, you had Irvington police come over, so there was a lot of movement going on for them to be silent about how people's safety
right, but Diane, but we got to understand again, at the very core of everything they do, they are first concerned about themselves. They're first concerned about their image. They're first concerned about shaping and controlling the narrative. I've been in those rooms. So they powwow to figure out how to control the people, not how to get the information out to the people. And because of that, you have this stagnation, you have this paralysis, right? And then when you have people, because again, this same government always says, well, we want people to be involved. And then when you have a young man like Jason and all of those people who are part of this platform say, okay, we're involved. They say, no, now we don't want you to be involved. Why? Because it shines a light on us. It makes us more accountable, right? And at the end of the day, we can't do what we're focused on doing above everything else, which is controlling the narrative. That's it. And because of that, they put lives at risk, right? And so they should all be booted out of office. All of them. They don't care about you. They care about themselves. And their actions show it.
Jason, when is the next school board election, and do you have any plans or any candidates that are going to be running for the next election?
So in Union, there are town committee and school board elections every year. We have a rotating election cycle for town committee where there are at least 2 seats up every year. There's 1 up this year because we have an odd number. For school board, we have a 9-member board. 3 seats are up every single year. So in total, between the school board and the town committee, there are 4 seats up this year. I personally don't plan on running for things at the moment. I think it's kind of more important to be working on community relations and coalition building and empowering others at this point to kind of spread that around, get other people engaged and involved. I will say that most likely, what's been great about the last before I even ran for office, there's been a lot of parents and just your, average citizens who have been running for Board of Education. They're just either parents or stakeholders in the town who care about the kids and the students. So I'm sure people like that are going to run again for the Board of Education. And I will encourage anyone listening to this not to just come out and vote for those people and to kind of educate yourselves on who are in the public's best interest versus the government establishment best interest. I would encourage you to, get off the sidelines and get involved. Run for office yourself. Or if you don't want to run, everyone has skills that can be useful in a campaign. Making phone calls, knocking on doors, designing campaign cards. Specifically, when you have these grassroots campaigns, it takes people power to win.
Yeah.
We don't have the lobbyist money and the dark money, special interest money these entrenched politicians do. So anyone listening to this who is fed up by this selfishness and self-serving of whether it's people on the town committee or the Board of Education, you have to get off the sideline and get into this to make change.
Well, Jason, I appreciate that you've gotten off the sidelines and that you're in the fight, man. Keep up the great work there. Anything that we can ever do to help shine light on the activism that's taking place in Union Township and the great work that those people are doing there, and hold those failed elected officials accountable until they're all booted out of office. We're happy to do that. So call anytime you want.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, guys. Great talking to you as always.
Hey, take care now. Diane.
Right,
Diane, but that all other towns, Hillside, Irvington, Newark, East Orange, would be as active as those folks are there in the township of Union. It would be a fantastic thing. So hopefully people find some encouragement in knowing that if you get off the sideline, you can push back and you can begin to shift the balance of political power and make a change in your community and make a change in your life. So listen, there is did you see, somebody sent it to me, I guess, was it a speech Joaquin Phoenix gave, was it last night at some award ceremony? I got it. I don't know the background of it. Of the speech itself, but I am familiar with the reason why he had to give the speech. Do you know the speech I'm talking about, Diane?
No, I don't.
All right, so I'm gonna play it, and then I want to get your response on it. Here we go.
I feel very honored and privileged to be here tonight. Baptists have always been very supportive of my career, and I'm deeply appreciative. But I have to say that I also feel conflicted because so many of my fellow actors that are deserving don't have that same privilege. I think that we send a very clear message to people of color that you're not welcome here. I think that's the message that we're sending to people that have contributed so much to our medium and our industry and in ways that we benefit from. I don't think anybody wants a handout or a preferential treatment, although that's what we give ourselves every year. I think that people just want to be acknowledged and appreciated and respected for their work. This is not a self-righteous condemnation, because I'm ashamed to say that I'm part of the problem. I have not done everything in my power to ensure that the sets I work on are inclusive, but I think that it's more than just having sets that are multicultural. I think that we have to really do the hard work to truly understand systemic racism. I think that it is the obligation of the people that have created and perpetuate and benefit from a system of oppression to be the ones that dismantle it. So that's on us. Thank you.
I agree. I think that, we sit and we, I don't know if the right word is complain, but we certainly bring to the forefront that these award ceremonies are not representative, right? That Black folks, not people of color, but Black folks are not properly represented in there. And what Joaquin said is it sends a message that they're not wanted. And for all of the people who sit silent, right, in those at those award ceremonies, and watch people point the finger at the upper echelon of those organizations as opposed to them. And I appreciate Joaquin saying, look, I got to point the spotlight on myself too, because I've not done my job in pointing out what my sets look like, that they're not diverse enough, that they don't represent inclusion. So I'm gonna, not just talk about the Academy, I'm gonna talk about Joaquin Phoenix. And I think that if more of those folks who benefit from this current system, and maybe that's why they're not talking about it, right? So passively they're supporting it because they benefit from it, right? But maybe if they got off the sidelines and pushed back, like Joaquin did in that speech, maybe there would be more change. Your thoughts?
Well, great speech. However, you have to match people's words with their actions. And unless you're going to be giving up your award to someone else you think that deserved it more so than you, a person of color, Black, Hispanic, whoever, then all you're doing is preaching to the choir. I think what Black people, Hispanic people, all non-white people need to understand is these are their award shows. Stop looking for acceptance, adulation, anything, celebration from their award show. It is their media. It is their entertainment system. It is their award show. That's the first thing. If people of non-whites put more emphasis on creating and promoting their own award shows, they would not care about these Academy Awards, because these Academy Awards only weigh in their system. They have no weight in our system because we don't have one.
All right, and then we got a couple of minutes left, so I'm gonna play this clip. Given what's going on, and I talked about this, and this is before Jason called in. We were talking about the Democratic Party and what's happening with Mike Bloomberg putting $300 million in contributions to the Democratic Party, and how the Democratic Party is now breaking, not just bending, but breaking the rules to accommodate Mike Bloomberg. And as they're doing it, Diane, all of the Black electeds are bootlicking and caping for it. Right? Now, we talked on the show about Mike Bloomberg and his 12 years in New York City, and how through stop and frisk, he brutalized and terrorized the Black community, right? And no Black elected right now is standing up and saying, how dare the Democratic Party that I contribute to, right? That I identify with, more than I identify with my own foundational Blackness. How dare that party seek to shoehorn in a guy like Mike Bloomberg? But the Black electeds and the Black faith-based community and the Black folks who run these nonprofit organizations, they don't have to do it. They don't have to talk about Mike Bloomberg. Chris Christie did yesterday on one of the news shows, and I'm going to play that clip now, because this is what every Black elected, what every Black faith-based leader, and what every Black leader of nonprofit organizations should be saying about Mike Bloomberg. Here we go.
The last several tweets from the president all going after Mike Bloomberg.
Yeah, listen, I disagree on that one with the president. I don't think there is any chance that Mike Bloomberg is the Democratic nominee. Because, let me tell you something, Bernie Sanders says a lot of things. He's not stupid. And if it comes down to Sanders emerging from these first three, let me tell you what you're going to see on TV from Sanders. You're going to see Mike Bloomberg endorsing Rudy Giuliani. You're going to see him endorsing George W. Bush. You're going to see him endorsing John McCain. And not lukewarm, enthusiastic. If you're telling me that the energized part of the Democratic Party is going to go, oh, hell, we can trust Mike Bloomberg. We can can trust Mike Bloomberg. No one trusts Mike Bloomberg, okay? Because Mike Bloomberg's for Mike Bloomberg. He was a Republican when it was convenient and was cuddled up to Rudy Giuliani. Then when it was not so great to be a Republican during the Iraq War, he becomes an independent. And then when he's not independent anymore, because that doesn't work, he becomes a Democrat. So listen, all those problems down there. The only people winning here. The line to get, and I agree with you. Bloomberg's consultants. They're the only winners here. Get them to buy you dinner every day.
You just seem upset that you're not one of them.
Yeah. Believe me, I don't consult for people without principles.
So that is who Mike Bloomberg is. That is his record, right? Republican, endorsed George W. Bush, endorsed Rudy Giuliani, endorsed John McCain. Then during the Iraq War, when Republicans were under fire, he jumped ship from the Republicans, became an independent, right? And then after becoming an independent, now he looks and says, oh, you know what? I want to be a Democrat now.
Yeah, well, that shows a lot to his integrity and who he is as a person.
Yeah.
And people need to pay attention to that.
Well,
and the reason why people are not talking about it is because there are the typical voters. Voters will forget.
But I'm not talking about voters. But Diane, I'm not talking about voters right now. Let's be clear. I'm talking about insiders. I'm talking about all the influencers. I'm talking about why at the local level, why we've elected black mayors, we've elected black assembly folks, we've elected black state senators, we've elected black freeholders, we've elected all of these people. We elected in our state Governor Murphy. 94% of black people invested in him because they thought that he would have a voice for us. Why aren't any of those people saying, no, not Mike Bloomberg? That's what I'm getting at.
Because they're part of that same system, and we as voters voted in all the wrong people for all the wrong reasons.
Right.
So, of course, they're not going to come out and talk against them because they're looking for their come up as well.
That's absolutely correct. And so now, stay with that. And this is what I want you all to understand. So as you're looking at the Republican Party, and the Democratic Party is saying to you that you should look at all of those senators who are sniveling cowards for not speaking the truth about Donald Trump. They're sniveling cowards too, because they're not speaking the truth about Mike Bloomberg. This is what I'm saying to you. Do you understand? So you've got an oligarch over here, and there is an article that came out in The Guardian. You got an oligarch over here, Donald Trump, who is controlling the Republican Party right now. And the Democrats are saying, hey, look at how Donald Trump is destroying the government, how he's destroying democracy, how he has a stranglehold on the Republican Party such that they're being silent about his criminality and about the truth of who he is. Well, I'm saying to you guys that on this side, Mike Bloomberg has a stranglehold on the Democratic Party right now. And they're not speaking the truth about the brutalization and the terroristic behavior he demonstrated for 12 years on the black community. They're not speaking about him cozying up with Republicans. The Republicans that they say, the Rudy Giuliani that they're talking about right now, that colluded with the president in Ukraine. Mike Bloomberg was cozied up with him. But see, the Democratic Party, they want to cut this thing with a scalpel and say, we don't want to talk about that. This is what I'm saying to you. So the Democratic Party's hands are dripping with the same blood that the Republicans' hands are.
And that goes back to what we talked about before. Stop looking at it as a Democratic versus a Republican election. This is individual issues, and you should be voting for an individual. Stop aligning yourselves with parties just because they are part of a party and you want to be a part of that group. Because that group is not always the best representative of you.
That group is not the best representative of you. And history has shown it. And the only, I'm saying again, unequivocally, the only issues you should be concerned about is seizing economic and political power. That's it. Because those two groups, that's what they're fighting for. Economic and political power. Not to share with you. Like I said, remember who you are to them. You are the commodity to their wealth and to their power. And I don't know if you heard my answer to your question earlier, Diane, when you said, well, how do you get people to not identify with a party and identify with their issues. And when I was using the Lion King as an example, I was saying the aborigine Simba had while he was in the wilderness was of his father, who said, "Remember who you are." So it's about us reconnecting, right? And understanding who we are, and then understanding who we are to them. So understand who you are, and then understand who you are to them. See, we emotionalized ourselves when we saw that the biopic or the documentary or whatever you want to call it, the Central Park 5, right? And we said how they see us. Yeah, we got to remember how they see us. Remember who you are to them. And then once you start remembering who you are to them, the commodity to their wealth and to their power, that they never ever intend to share any prosperity with you, then you will begin to detach yourself. So like Farrakhan says, separate. But I'm not saying that you create your own party. I'm saying that you do what Jason's doing up in Union Township. You separate from that corrupt party, you build your own apparatus, and then you go with a sledgehammer and you tear it down.
That's right. Get off the sidelines.
Get off the sidelines, people. So we're at 12 o'clock, Diane. I got one last video to play, and this one is, and I love this commercial. I'm going to play it at the end of everything. You've seen it. This is Killer Mike. I think that it is probably one of the most powerful political ads that I've seen in a long, long time. But make no mistake, there is a revolution, and it will be televised. We talked about it. There is an uprising, and young people all across the country, Diane, are saying we're not buying into this narrative that the economy is great. We're not buying into this narrative that everything is wonderful. Just, let's keep going the way that we're going. This generation of folks are living worse off than their parents did, and they're the first generation to do it. And that's what they're uprising against, and that's what they're gonna come and vote against. I believe that. I firmly believe that. And in the middle of this uprising, in the middle of this revolution, black folk better get it together and be a part of it so that we can stake a claim at the table when we're divvying up economic and political power. Because what I fear, Diane, is going to happen is we're going to go in our houses, we're going to watch other people fight, and then we're going to complain about the fact that we've got nothing. But if you don't invest, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, and that's not how you get things done.
It's not. You got to be in the fight. You got to be in the fight. So, like I said before, look, I'm not on their team in a lot of other respects, right? There's some things that I don't agree with, like AOC, she wants to dismantle ICE. Her position on immigration reform differs from mine, right? But so does Bernie Sanders. I have a completely different outlook on immigration reform. But what I do know is that those folks, and I have a different outlook on reparations than they do. Right? Because of my unique experience as a foundational Black American that they don't have. But I'm going to put a sledgehammer in my hand, and I'm going to go to Washington as a congressman representing 10th Congressional District, ready to tear down this current construct with them. And then after it's torn down, Diane, then I want to be at that table saying, and this is what I want for foundational Black America. Now, as we rebuild this thing. But if you're not in the fight, how do you claim any of the prize in the end? So here's the video. Diane, thanks for calling in.
Thank you.
Oh, question.
For having me.
Did they enjoy the peach cobbler?
It's still in my refrigerator.
All right, we're gonna talk about that.
I'm glad you reminded me. I'll drop it off to her today.
You know what? You are a busy, busy lady.
No, we went to go eat yesterday after church, and it was just not on my mind.
Where'd you go eat?
She was like, to place up in diner up in West Orange. Diner a couple of doors down from the bowling alley. It was really good. I'm not giving a plug because I don't get no.
Off of I know where you're talking about.
Northfield Avenue, right by the not movie theater, right by the bowling alley.
Yeah, I know where you're talking about.
Yeah, right there.
Very good diner.
Yeah, so the food was good, and and she had dessert to go, so she was good. But yeah, I'll give it to her tomorrow. And I was just thinking, I want something sweet, and now I know I got it in the refrigerator, so I'll eat that when I go home today.
You know what? I feel like I'm contributing to something bad. Anyway.
Yeah.
Enjoy the rest of your day, Diane. Thanks for calling.
You too.
Thank you, guys. And Jason, keep up the good work there.
The last several tweets.
That's not the clip that I want to play. I want to play the Killer Mike clip. So bear with me. Here we go.
I just want to say one of my favorite writers growing up was a man named James Baldwin. And I remember Baldwin saying, you asked my father to wait, my brother to wait, my uncle to wait. How long must I wait on freedom? How long must I wait on rights and equality and liberty? And as a black child, that resonated with me because I knew I'd been denied, and I personalized that. But as I grew, I started to understand poor white people have been denied. Women have been denied. Gays and lesbians, transgender people been denied. Immigrant children been denied. Everybody outside of that 1% has been denied. So I want you to take a few seconds to look to your left and look to your right. Look to your neighbor and say, neighbor, the time is now. There are more of us. We're stronger. We will wait no longer. The time is now. When you go to that booth next year, I need you to carry in that booth the memory of this room. Black, white, straight, gay, men, female. We are together. We are united. Our time is right now. We will not wait 4 more years. We will not wait 20 more years. We will not wait 2 more presidents. We will not wait 3 more presidents. The time is now. The time is not in the future. The time is not some abstract time. The time is not something that might be. The time ain't something that could be. The time ain't nothing that should be, that would be. It ain't tomorrow. It ain't the day after. It ain't coming next week. The time is. Senator Bernard Sanders will be the next president of the United States of America. Thank you all.